Violence in the workplace. What is workplace violence? Any physical assault, aggravated assault, threatening behavior, verbal abuse, bomb threats, homicide, sexual assault, terrorism, sabotage, and robberies. The truth about workplace violence. 80% of workplace violence deaths that occur are caused by offenders who are using guns. 28% of the incidents of workplace violence that happened to women came from a relative or direct personal acquaintance. 4 out of 10 supervisors are aware of at least one employee who is suffering from ongoing domestic violence issues. 88% of the most violent incidents in the workplace occur in service-related fields. The rates of workplace violence are higher for government employees. Nearly half of all workplace violence incidents happen in public settings. 250,000 women will miss at least one day of work in the next year because of someone stalking them. The percentage of corporate executives who believe that workplace violence isn't an issue to be addressed is 43%. Violence in the workplace. Violence is the second leading cause of death in the workplace following accidents. However, homicide is the leading cause of death for women. Robberies are the leading motive in workplace violence. Many risk factors are dismissed as petty, however, ultimately play a large factor statistically. Ignoring warnings from mid-level management about or from disgruntled employees. Allowing ongoing feuds between coworkers. Management allowing acts of favoritism or discrimination by supervisors. Also restructuring or layoffs. Violence in the workplace. The 4 common categories. Violence by strangers. Violence by customers or clients. Violence by employees or managers. Violence by spouses or relatives of employees. Violence in the workplace by strangers. Average reports of motives for workplace violence. Simple assault, 1.5 million per year. Aggravated assault, 396,000 per year. Sexual assault, 51,000 per year. Robberies, 84,000 per year. Strangers' motives are unknown and therefore much harder to de-escalate. Violence in the workplace by strangers. A stranger will have no connection to the workplace or employees working there. Targets will be random or born of opportunity. Perpetrators usually enter the building posing as a patron to prepare their assault. The intent is usually robbery, but can be a violent crime as well. Violence in the workplace by customers or clients. Feel like they have been mistreated by an employee or company as a whole. Feel humiliated by actions of an employee or company. School students fall into this category. Victims usually provide a service to the public such as transportation, food service, consulting, or working in the press. They often have been denied services or benefits. Mental disorders play a large role in attacks from a customer or client. Violence in the workplace by employees or management. Past perpetrators have been known to strenuously research the Grievance Procedure Manual and the Corporate Personnel Manual. The Grievance Procedure Manual is often taken word for word literally. Offenders may feel unrecognized or unnoticed by coworkers and management. Motive can be born out of love or hate. Violence in the workplace by employees or management. Warning signs and flags. Sudden and persistent complaining about unfair treatment. Blaming others for personal problems. Deterioration of job performance. Statements saying they wish something bad would happen to a coworker. Sudden withdrawal. Instability in personal relationships. Sudden refusal of company rules or duties. Outbursts of rage. Drop in customer relations or sales. Violence in the workplace by employees or management. Employee anger. Spot the signs. Level 1. Early warning signs. The person is intimidating or bullying, discourteous or disrespectful, uncooperative, verbally abusive. Level 2. Escalation of the situation. The person argues with customers, vendors, coworkers, and management, refuses to obey agency policies and procedures, sabotages equipment and steals property for revenge, verbalizes wishes to hurt coworkers or management, sends threatening notes to coworkers or management, sees self as victimized by management. Level 3. Further escalation, usually resulting in emergency response. The person displays intense anger resulting in physical fights, destruction of property, display of extreme rage, utilization of weapons to harm others, and suicidal thoughts. Violence in the workplace by employees, spouse, or relatives. Domestic violence flags. Frequent disagreements with spouse. Signs of past animal cruelty. Anger management issues with one or both individuals. Domestic violence patterns are very often passed from one generation to the next. Frequent ups and downs. Signs or history of mental illness. History of violence. Alcohol or substance abuse by one or both individuals. Verbal, mental, sexual, or economic control over an individual. 54% of victims miss 3 days of work per month and often lose their jobs. 80% of workplace violence is due to domestic violence. Violence in the workplace by employees, spouses, or relatives. Victims of domestic violence profile. 65% of intimate homicide victims were separated from the abuser. Up to 50% of homeless women and children report that they left their living situation because of domestic violence. 27% of domestic violence victims are children. A place of employment is the easiest way to find a runaway spouse. Violence in the workplace. Prevention for employees. Don't work alone on off hours. Don't be afraid to ask security for an escort. Identify entrapment locations in your workplace and adjust if possible. Train staff and coworkers how to diffuse violence. Establish a plan of action for angry customers or clients. Control access to employee work areas. Violence in the workplace. Prevention for employers. Conduct a confidential risk assessment of all potential hazards, both internal and external. Present the analysis to top management and give supportive facts. Create a workplace violence workshop and awareness presentation to train employees on all levels. Familiarize yourself and upper level management with sensitive training for high risk employees. Create a survey to properly assess the effectiveness of the campaign and gain other points of view and concerns. Responding to a violent incident. responding to a violent incident. Isolate the threat or location of the incident. Call 911 and report emergencies. Assess your skills and implement a run, hide, fight plan. Attend to immediate medical needs. Establish communications with management if possible. Document and file the incident as detailed as possible utilizing all available sources. For psychological trauma, seek professional counseling for all employees affected. Statistics show that workplaces with a well-practiced emergency plan have a substantially lower victim rate. Building a workplace violence incident program. Risk assessment. Develop preventative measures. Emergency response plan. Workplace violence awareness training. Report and investigate complaints. Provide victim support. Follow up on all reports. Get involved with community resources. Repeat on a schedule. Legal considerations. Common lawsuits involved with workplace violence. Negligent hiring. Negligent retention. Negligent supervision. Inadequate security measures. How to handle a potentially violent situation. Familiarize yourself with company policies. Decide if your interjection will be beneficial. Assess the room for potential hazards, secondary threats, and escape routes. Do not touch the aggressive person. Try to legitimately understand their point of view, even if you don't agree with it. Use a calm, non-confrontational approach. Take all threats seriously. Report all verbal and physical threats. If the situation escalates, contact emergency services. Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970. OSHA General Duty Clause. Each employer shall furnish to each of their employees employment and a place of employment which are free from recognized hazards that are causing or likely to cause death or serious physical harm. This includes the prevention and control of threat of workplace violence. Excerpt from the National Crime Prevention Council Workplace Violence Guidelines. Violation of this policy may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination from employment. Additionally, violations of this policy will also be reported to the appropriate authorities when warranted and therefore may be subject to civil and/or criminal charges or penalties. All NCPC associates should immediately report to management or human resources any threatening behavior that they witnessed, were subject to, or of which they have knowledge. Human resources will investigate any suspected incident of violent or threatening behavior and take appropriate action. No associate shall be subject to retaliation or retribution of any kind for reporting a suspected incident of a workplace violence. Although not mandatory, this policy implementation reduces citations for violations of the General Duty Clause. In conclusion, workplace violence flags. Threatening behavior such as yelling and throwing objects, verbal or written threats to coworkers, verbal abuse or harassment, physical altercations. Before confronting a disgruntled employee or customer, does this person have physically aggressive body language? Consider if this is the first offense or a pattern. Is this person acting out of their normal character? Are you prepared if the situation escalates? Summary. Watch for external threats, signs of domestic abuse, suspicious activity outside the building, strangers inside of employee-only areas, and propped open or barricaded doors. Recognize aggressive behavior. Periodically talk to coworkers and see if they have concerns. Tell the Human Resource Department about any of your concerns, and watch for sudden changes in moods or frequent outbursts. For questions or concerns, contact us at critraining.com. CRI is a post-Peace Officer Standardized Training approved school that offers year-round training in active shooter defense, defensive tactics, risk assessment, and many other classes. Remember, train safe to stay safe.